Letter 1. Arenalitic, Butte, Occident, November 4th, 1872. Most sophomorical Sir, your Greco-Latin epistolet, or Kabbalistical abracadabra, lies before me deciphered and eclaircized to the best of my linguistic, passigraphical, and exegetical abilities. As a merited castigation, therefore, and to test your wonted longanimity, I shall recalcitrate by effunding upon you in epistolic form my scaturient cornucopia of lexiphanic sesquipedalities, Johnsonian archaisms, exoticisms, neologianisms, patavinities, et id genus omne. In former epistolary scribblements I gave you the concatenation of concomitant circumstances initiatory to my transmigration to this remote section of the occidental portions of our Colombian Republican coadjunation. I have also delineated my periculous adventures among the fucated, rubicund autochthons or aborigines, portrayed various incidents of venations in which I participated, minorating Gregal aggregations of bison and antelope capridae, which abound on the gramineous, occiduous plateaus, depicted my primal vision of the elusive phenomenal mirage and the Fata Morgana, and in verity recounted much of my vicissitudinous experience whilst with the caravan traversing the occidental champaigns. I am, however, not oblivious of the fact that when we imparted mutual valedictory conges, I laid myself under obligations to give you a pentagraphical delineation of the ponent regions upon which I might cast my ophthalmic organs, as it would be a delucid evagation from my accustomary routinism to comprehendinate the fulfillment of my felicitations by procrastination or dereliction. I shall, deeming this a suffisance proemially or prolegomenarily, essay to further exonerate myself of said obligations, and imprimis give you a chorographical sketch of this part of our Hesperian domain, and a compendiarious enumeration of its autochthonal flora and fauna. The superficies of the occidental portion are diversified by many altitudinarian, terrene, lapidarious, and rupellary acroceronian montanic elevations, some of cyclopean vastidity and sublime scabridity. Their mirificent glacious pinnacles tower, apparently above the nubiferous regions, into the caliginous empyrean. The oriental portion is a vast undulating plateau, extremely longitudinal and latitudinous, having few exiguous dingles. Its terreous surface is covered with a most nutritious, autochthonous, xerophilous, gramineous growth, principally Bouteloua, Oligostachya, Tripsicum dactyloides, mesquite, and grama. This growth sustains equine, bovine, hircine, and ovine quadrupeds in a state of rotund impinguation during the entire hyamal season. Artemisia tridentata, the Solisequius helianthus, aculeated Cactus opuntia, and multifarious succulent acanthaceous and aciculated cactaceous plantage, and floriferous herbaceous and graminifolious garniture luxuriate in many localities. The fluvial meanders are limited and originate from the liquefaction of vast niveous glacial accumulations in the montanic regions. None are navigerous, but they are Cretaceous and anatiferous. Some are Pactolian, and all are extremely relucent and possess a great degree of diaphaneity, none tardy in profluence. At many points their rivages, especially in the vicinity of embouchures or disemboguements, arroyos, are replete with a promiscuity of asperifolious, Baxiferous or Cocciferous, Vinaceous, Arundinaceous, and other bushments, myriads of Venene, Umbelliferous, Corymbiferous, Racemiferous, Urticaceous, Fructiferous, Anthophorous or Floriferous, Plantage, and multifarious, spontaneous, esculent products also abound. The autochthonous, arboreous growth consists of acerose, sempervirent, and perdifolious, silver, and boskages, by no means of immane arduity, or totally devoid of odunsities, nodosities, and nags. Disboscation by succession and conflagrations will deplete same in the next decade. The reptitory panigerous, bisulcus, and unguiculated feral entities of this domain are ouzels, ptarmigans, ortolans, leverocs, trochidea, shelducks, crioles, cocobs, creeples, crotoluses, carcajews, logomies, castors, marmots, malodorus, marapots, spilogale, putorius, lepus campestris, ovis montani, antelocapridae, bison, spermophiles, coyotes, grizzlies, ursus horribilis, and other animals of the murine, sciurine, feline, canine, leporine, vulpine, lupine, ursine, cervine, caprine, ovine, and equine genera, also penipotent, accipitrine, and aquiline raptors. There are apparently interminable areas almost wholly monopolized by Cynomus ludovicianus. Viewing the ludicrous antics of these lucery, sciurine, burrowing rodents in their circumcussations, or perched a la homo upon the apices of their coniform tumulosities, incessantly allotrating, one cannot control his risibles. The intermontane sections of this region are as auriferous and argentiferous as any of the austral, remote, ostrine, occidental, or extreme occidental and septentrional sections of this republican adunation. They are also ferriferous, carboniferous, or anthrociferous, plumbiferous, and cupriferous. The ubity, or fecundity, of the soil in the battable sections, when properly stercorated and irrigated, exuperates aeration. Besides frumentarious products which yield a most siliginous flour, there are produced in campestrian and olitory enclosures branch citrals, sarmentaceous fragaria, cucurbitaceous, acetarious, and in verity multifarious oleraceous edibles. There are vast, arid, alkaligenous, and arenarious adjurations, multitudinous conglomerate buttes, and circumdenudated arenolitic elevations, such areas not being scaturiginous and arable will ever be sparsely populated. The nummulary majoration or crescive diatation of the terry tenants originates from agistment and vendition of equine, bovine, and lanigerous ovine quadrupeds or rotherbeasts, from attention to geoponics, from usurarious contracts and usufructuary holdings, from enhancement in value of preempted terra firma, from venations, agiotage, mining, and piratical pursuits or mercature, and from general negotiations. The paucity of population in some localities possesses a consimilitude to a mere exiguity. The life of many is bucolic and nomadic. In the Oppidum and many philetic communities the optimity of society prevails. However, the cordial compagination of so heterogeneous a mass and farraginous concurrence of all nationalities, as is the case in some localities, demands time. There must be a prior detruncation of truculence and inurbanity of some of its divisions to obtain the optimity of society and secundation, appetition for occupation, synergetics, electromachy, tauromachy, and circumforaneous evocations must undergo diminution. The compotence of the major portion of the Occidental Iliad is by no means truculent, celestic, or immerigerous. Nevertheless, many are subdolous and have a great inhiation for captation, veneration, the coercivation of pelf, preemption and coemption of terra firma, and participating in festal jovialities. The ethics of many are greatly maculated by the vendition and the bibacity of aquavitae, localities replete with cades of aguardiente, pupilo, skink, and bub, patrocinated by and thronged with bibbers, whose co-mates, condisciples, and compotators are dolts, fanfarons, jobanols, anserus, nincompoops, maudlin, gabalanzes, temulant, wantwits, linguacious, borachioes, and bateful barators. They sometimes initiate their Saturnalian revelries with xerophagy, and the mendication of ragouts, savoloi, and poloni, to give an acumen to their gusto for the imbibition of inebriating potations as a sequence. What stultiloquence, what random tentations at the inundation of some vulgar enigma, what perpotation and ruinous ebriety, what mutual pugnacity issuing in testy consultations and sanguinary pugilisms. Such rendezvous are terrestrial pandemoniums. Relative to myself, as you are cognizant, and for some time subsequent to my decession from home, I sojourned with Agnatians and Cognations, who are amnicalists and engaged in terriculture or agriculation. The circumambient and circumjacent country is interamnian, nemerous, and paludal or palustral. My vocation was at first subtagulaneous and sedentary, but subsequently became wholly extraforaneous. Prior to becoming inured to a castrential mode of life, I very injudiciously submitted to humicubations during pernoctations, which during the initial part of my castromatations and alfresco employment in connection with nocturnal irrorations, miasmatic exhalations, and dankishness of the atmosphere generated by a want of apricity, were extremely febrifaciant, causing tertiary quasation and febriculosity, infrigidation, formication, cardialgy, allotriophagy, and womble, succeeded by calenture, found entrance into my corporeal organization. I was medicamentally aggravated by a ruoriginous, charlatanical, anencephalous medicaster, who, not being extra scient in ecology, hyomatology, soteriology, pharmacodynamics, and in the impartation of ecritics, ekphrastics, and other pharmacons, and moreover, having erroneously diagnosticated my case, greatly minorated my eupepsy, and occasioned me to spend many insomnious nights. In my brief swevens, I endured circumvallation of pigwidgeons, cacodemons, and audible simulacres in my harns. Upon these supervened synorexia, leucophlegmacy, turgid muns, and synchonism. I am now robust physically and sane mentally, or mens sana in corpore sano, with the exception of a slight odontalgia, cephalalgia, but not the slightest symptom of nostalgia. Eulogium to the supermundane powers for the revivification of my physical organization and for my invalescence and complete analepsis by means of antipyretics, cholagogics, peptics, anticorsotics, and other medicaments. Also, balneotherapy, kinesiopathy, kinesiatrics, and migration to this salubrious clime. Since my ubication here, my functions have been bibliopolistical, bucolical, agronomical, piedeutical, and negotiatory. I have perorated the ponent regions quite extensively and have witnessed many peregrinities and neoteric occurrences. I will now terminate this protracted autoschediastical scribblement by imparting to you the verity that as yet femininality has not parlously fascinated me, though I am not by any means a misogynist or a misogamist, affected with neither gyneolatry or gynophobia, though somewhat of a philogynist, desiderating not to be jived with connubial relations. I have come to the elation to be solivigant, yet many annuary epochs. I shall offer no exculpation for hieroglyphical chirography, autoschediastical, orthology, cacography, and cacology, but leaving it to you to decipher, etymologize, and eclaircise to the best of your lexicographical, lexicological, orismological, and philological abilities. I am, most lexiphanically, your quondam condisciple Ivan.